Welcome back to Football on the 40. I'm your host, Bowen, joined as always by Andrew and Kevin. Andrew and I are back from Ann Arbor, and boy, was it a trip. Our Longhorns demolished Michigan. The vibes were vibing. Coming out of the weekend, Texas is number two in the country. Voices are slightly recovering, and what an experience it was. We can't wait to get into it. With home games against UTSA, ULM, and Mississippi State coming up, it's really, you know, knock on wood for sure, but really the next few weeks ahead of us, it's hard not to see us being potentially at 5-0, ranked very highly here in a few weeks, going into a tough back-to-back with OU and Georgia. Really, in all the years that we've been fans, we are definitely counting our blessings. There's a very few seasons that we can count that we've had really huge, huge, huge momentum swinging early season road wins like we just had this past Saturday. So, yeah, we'll be breaking down this week's game against UTSA, but we're definitely going to take some time, a lot more than normal than we usually do, reliving the Michigan win, talking about Andy and I's experience in Ann Arbor, and really just taking a step back and talking about what this means for the Texas football program. Before we get into it, as always, we would like to thank our talented and esteemed and good-looking producer Hamilton Lizer for all he does to make this show possible. So, thanks, Ham. All right. So, getting into it first, before Andy and I, show off and really describe our experience. Kevin, we want to start with you first. How was it watching it at home? I know that I heard that there was some brisket cooking,
It
so that
was.
that sounded pretty good, but tell us
Yeah.
about what the experience was like watching it back home.
Yeah, I was jealous, especially in the second half that I didn't go to the game like you guys. But we had probably about 10 people over at our house to watch the game, did something very similar than we did last year for Alabama. We almost didn't have brisket. I woke up at 2 a.m. to put the brisket on, and I was so tired. I was like gripping the handrail walking down the stairs because I was scared to fall down the stairs. I was so tired. And I usually put the brisket on at like 225 or 250. Over that, I think is like hot. And in my like sleeping stupor, I set the smoker to like 300 or 325 and just went back to sleep for like 6 hours. And it looked like so bad when I took it off and wrapped it. Like it looked like a meteor, but everyone did the typical like, yum, this is good. Like you did great, thanks. So a little bit of a complex over it, but yeah, we had a good time. A lot of friends. The game was like pretty stress free, and really fun to watch. And yeah, it's just like a really, really memorable day. We made Hayes cry a couple times, which was kind of sad, When we cheer, he gets a little
It's a
shocked.
tradition, Kev. That happened during the
Yeah,
Bama game last year too.
it did. It did. But all around, like fantastic watching experience. I'm glad I got to hear the commentary, but I can't wait to hear a little bit about y'all's experience. I mean, from my perspective, seeing on TV and watching some clips after the game, there was like a ton of Texas fans there. So much so that it seemed like we brought some of our traditions up there and we're like singing our songs and pretty loudly near the end of the game.
Hmm.
So, um, yeah, I want to hear about it. Like, I guess from the start, how was the tailgating? Did you have somewhere to go? Like, what'd you do before the game?
So you can take it away first.
Sure, yeah, yeah. We stayed in Detroit because by the time we had decided to go up to for the game, everything in Ann Arbor was booked out. So we Ubered that morning. We had a nice Uber ride up and got dropped not too far from campus. We got some bagel sandwiches to start the day with some coffee, nice and early, and then we just walked around and um, checked out the. Apparently, I didn't know this before going in, but you can just there's a lot of tailgating on the golf course that's out
Hmm.
there, and
Yeah.
so folks just tailgate on the golf course. We were walking on the fairway and um, just
Kev,
exploring,
I
and
don't
the
know if
weather
you
was
know
super
this, but it's
nice.
the Alistair McKenzie golf course. So
Really?
for the people that are like out there, that's the same guy that designed Augusta where the Masters is played every year. So
Wow,
pretty
that's a good
cool.
Yeah.
tip. You could see it from the blimp shot on TV, and I could, being the golfer that I am, I was kind of looking at where they had the tailgating, and it looked like they were trying to keep the tailgating off of certain areas of the course, but it was pretty taken over that. So that was cool. Were you made family by some Michigan fans, or were you mostly hanging out with Orange people?
Yeah, we met up with our buddy Blake's parents actually. They happened to be up. They went up separately for the game and had like a little golf trip with some of their friends, and they had some Michigan alum friends, so they took us in, got to hang out with them, and then I met up with or Andy, Blake, and I we met up with one of my Michigan uh buddies who's one of my coworkers that I was talking about last week, and
Hmm.
they had a little tailgate too that we got to stop by at. So yeah, all in all, a great experience. Everyone was super nice, lots of horns down, but the Midwest, everyone was super nice. Like that was their attempt at trash talk, and it just yeah, it wasn't very good, but it was we just entertained them, and they were super friendly. Andy, what
Yeah.
about you? What was your experience before the game?
Yeah, I agree. Super friendly. Kind of reminded us of Iowa State a little bit, Kev. So just how the people were friendly there too.
Hmm.
Midwest hospitality. Um, yeah, it was interesting because these two random guys like walked us to the golf course to like show us like where to go and like went out of their way to like show us what to do. So that was really nice. But yeah, trash talking they could have done a little bit better, but it's okay. They relied a lot upon the national championship last year. If
Hmm.
something was just going bad, even during the game, they're like, "Well, we won the Natty last year," and
Did
we're
you
like,
get any did you get any like funny responses over the Connor Stallions cheating scandal stuff? Or did you even not
"No,
mention
we
it? They
just
were too
didn't really
nice.
bring it up." I don't know. It was they were so nice. I just felt bad like saying
Yeah.
anything like mean to them, if that makes sense.
Okay,
Um,
so what about the stadium, like the big house? It's a historic stadium. It's the largest stadium in college football. I
yeah.
assume it was a sellout. Like, how were the amenities? Like, did they have good food? Was it a cool place to go watch a game?
Amazing place to go watch a game. There's 1,100 or 111,000 people there. So a ton of people there. It was packed, obviously. It
Yeah.
was super loud at the beginning. Um, Thankfully, it got quiet real quickly. But if it if it was a close game for a while, noise definitely would have been a factor. They were really into it from the beginning. Not a ton of amenities, I will say. The bathroom situation there, not great. Took a minimum of like 15-20 minutes to go like through the line to go to the restroom. So you kind of had to be strategic on like when you went. Also kind of disappointing, like beers there. Like the cheapest beer is like 12.50, I think,
Hmm.
and ranged like all the way up to like $17. So kudos to the CDC for like keeping it reasonable at Texas
Yeah.
games. Um, Obviously the weather was amazing. It was definitely very cold at first. A lot of the Texas people were not ready for that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah,
Present company
just
included.
I don't know if y'all like you mentioned the wind. I don't know if you guys saw Sark's post-game press conference, but he mentioned that we won the toss and declined so that we could choose the direction we would kick a winning field goal in the fourth quarter because he said that before the game the wind was affecting the field goals by about like 6 yards or something like that, but it seemed to be a little bit of a factor at least early.
Yeah,
I
I saw that.
I
Um,
can I didn't think it was like terrible win though. It definitely wasn't it definitely was noticeable though.
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
I don't know.
One more about sorry, Bo,
Oh,
go
go
ahead.
ahead, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
I was gonna ask, like, going to games, you see stuff, you see how the coaches are interacting on the field, you see how the players are talking to each other, getting excited in ways that you don't get on TV. So, like, you know, Bone, you said the vibes were good. Like, how was the team looking before it felt like we were in command? Like, did we look nervous? Um, how was Sark doing? Was he talking to McConaughey or what was going on?
We couldn't really get a sense of if Sark talked to McConaughey. We did see McConaughey like walking across the field in his leather jacket, so we could like spot that from where we're sitting. Although, one quick thing on the stadium too. That was my first time there. There was really not a bad seat in the house. Kind
Mhm.
of what Andy was alluding to. Just the bathroom situation. I think partially why the bathroom situation is so bad is because they don't have like an upper deck. Like DKR has like, ground and they have so many layers. The big house really just has one layer of seating. And when you walk in, you're like at row 60. So the stadium is like sunk into the ground essentially. And
Mm,
so when you go up, we were in row 98, I think it was. So we were technically in like the nosebleeds, but you saw where we were sitting, Kevin. Like that was a phenomenal view.
hmm.
Yeah.
And
It
so
was like the equivalent. We were the last row of our section, and it was like the equivalent of like the first row of upper deck in DKR. Like,
yeah,
was
it
not
was it
bad
was
at all.
amazing. Um,
That's cool.
which is why I think like do they have like one layer of bathrooms essentially is what I was getting at. But still phenomenal atmosphere. And yeah, I think the confidence from the team, the vibes were good. I think like from the crowd as well, that showed up. Everyone was feeling really good. Like Andy was saying, it did get really loud, like in the very beginning. And I think Quinn had alluded to that, or he mentioned that in Twitter as well, where he was mentioning that he doesn't usually notice crowd noise on the road, but
Hmm.
definitely noticed it there. And I could totally see that because if it had been like that all game, yeah, that would have been problematic.
Yeah, man, that's cool. Like I said, I'm a little jealous, but that sounds like a great experience. And I know from going to away games with you guys, we usually lose the games that we go to on the road, so that had to feel pretty
Yeah.
good.
It was Bowen's first true road win that he's ever
Yeah.
seen in his life.
Yeah, and you've
It
been to
was
like four road games at least, right?
at least, yeah,
Like
yeah.
you've been to at least two Baylor losses that I know about, and a loss against Iowa State, and I'm not sure what the other one is, but
USC.
yeah,
USC, Notre Dame.
yeah,
Yeah, those were rough. So,
yeah. When I have one more question, I know we'll get to the UTSA stuff, but this was a big moment. We're about to have three relatively boring games, so I want to kind of dwell on this a little bit. Um, Before the season started, you two both picked a win against Michigan. And I was feeling more anxious. I picked a loss and betted a loss and lost that money. But having won the game, looking back, seeing how much media attention the team is getting, like, what do we take from that?
yeah, Andy, do
Like
you want to start?
prospects of like the season at large going forward.
Just in general, like everything. Like, is it, Sark's the guy, like he's building Bama in Austin, or is it, like you said last week, Michigan could go 8-4 and this might end up not being a big deal.
I think it's a little bit of everything, to be honest. Like I think it is a big deal to win there. At the very least, Michigan has an above average defense, even if like their season just goes off the rails. Their defense is going to be really good throughout the season. So the way that we were able to move the ball in the first half, I think was really impressive. Michigan, like we had our way against Michigan. Now I do think Michigan's not going to be like as good as the previous years. I think they're like between like a 7 and 9 win team. So take that as you may. But um, yeah, I just think it's kind of a combination of things, and we should be excited. There's still a long ways to go in the season, and that's just something that we have to keep in mind. And we have some tough games in the back half of the season too. So just kind of taking one step at a time. But like what Sark is building is different than what we've seen the last 15 years. So yeah,
Yeah.
be excited, but also be like cautiously optimistic too.
There you go.
I
But
generally agree. I think, the way that we won, I think says a lot more about the game for sure. Like it was never really close, which was after the first, few series. And I will say I feel like we're pretty fortunate to catch them early on in the season when they're still kind of figuring out the quarterback situation. I think they did learn a little bit. I mean, Orgy didn't really play much at all, so it seems like they have settled on directionally where they're going. But if that kind of gets ironed out, because you could see, I mean, Kevin, I'm sure you could see on TV, like there were just a lot of miscues that they had, even with like
mhm.
Loveland, who's a phenomenal player, and the rest of the offense, like there were some just miscues. I think like with more reps, with a more consistent presence at quarterback, I feel like they'll start to get that tuned up for conference play. But still, I mean, even if that was the case, like we were dominant out there, and so it was a great statement.
Yeah, I was looking at the FPI number a couple hours ago, and there was never a point in the game where FPI had us less than a 90% chance to win.
Wow,
Um,
Crazy to think
yeah,
about that.
yeah.
that's pretty crazy.
So transitioning, we've got more games coming up. We've got UTSA this weekend. Sark was asked in his press conference today, kind of like, how do you coach the guys or teach them to continue to focus after teams like Notre Dame win a big game week 1 and lose in week 2? And he obviously said good things about UTSA and what Jeff Traylor has going on in San Antonio, but said that he started the week off by showing them that tape of Notre Dame losing the game with a field goal and basically telling the team, like, you're not entitled anything in this game, so we need to continue to focus and look ahead. So we will try to do the same thing. Um, we've got UTSA this week. It's a familiar team for us because we broke them down, talked about Jeff Traylor a little bit 2 years ago when they visited Austin. But Andrew, as a resident San Antonian, tell us a little bit about UTSA.
Yeah, I guess the flagship university of San Antonio, right? Um, but yeah, established in 1969. I didn't realize it was that late, to be honest. I thought they were around a little bit longer. But Kev, you wrote an interesting thing about their colors, so I kind of want to get your input on that.
The colors of the team.
Yeah, or the
So
colors of the school, or like the
yeah,
university it took. Yeah,
they're in the UT system, and I think we've all noticed this with like UTEP, UT at Arlington. They all have orange, but it's not burnt orange and it's not orange and white. I was reading their Wikipedia page, and the UT system actually has a bylaw that an institution that's not UT in the system may adopt one additional color to be used in connection with the university, and the other has to be orange. So, um, that's a tough rule for a team to take on because there's not a whole lot that like jives with orange. Um,
yeah,
but
for sure.
yeah, it's like a
Like
law.
like the, yeah, the Rio Grande Valley, Texas school, like their colors are green and orange. They don't go super well together. I
No.
mean, blue, like the navy blue and orange, I think are fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's not a ton of orange or a ton of colors that go with orange. But yeah, that was interesting. I never really knew um that thing before, so that's definitely interesting. Just going back to UTSA itself, enrollment is about 35,000 people, so pretty big for a university. Um, and yeah, they've just like school rankings and stuff, they've definitely improved throughout the years. And I think it's a tier one research university now, so that's pretty big in itself. Uh, a couple weeks ago, actually, a pretty big story in San Antonio. I don't know if y'all picked it up, but UTSA and UT Health um, joined together. So they're going to have an enrollment now of about 40,000 students. So yeah, really big news for San Antonio, and it's all going to be under the UTSA umbrella. So that's pretty cool. 16,000 total workers combined between both schools that are going to be working together now. So um, yeah, it's big news for San Antonio. I think that's starting in 2025. So, um, yeah, excited to see where that goes. And then not a lot of famous alumni from UTSA. Uh, this one's by far the biggest. Travis Scott went to UTSA for a little bit. Michelle Beadle used to be on ESPN a lot. She does stuff for the Spurs now, and I think some other things too. But she's probably the second most famous person in kind of the sports realm. And then nobody's going to get this reference except for me growing up being a huge Spurs fan. But Devin Brown, he played on the 2005 championship team and was a pretty good role player, like a seven or eight type of guy on the team. Came off the bench, definitely provided some good minutes. So Yeah, he definitely played a role in my upbringing, but for 99% of y'all don't know about him. So don't worry if you don't know his name. But Kev, what about their football program? What have you seen like throughout the years with UTSA?
Yeah, they have a relatively new football program. I mean, the school's been around since 1969, so the school's not new, but I can remember when they started football in about 2011 because they were recruiting players from my high school in San Marcos. And while I was in high school, we won a total of like 6 football games. So this is a program that this is only their 14th season playing football, and they literally started with nothing. And like we're kind of a joke their first season, but the community has supported them. They've got kind of a culture building with Jeff Traylor and have done a lot in the time that they have played football, actually, which I think is pretty commendable.
Yeah, for sure. And Larry Coker, who was a coach of the 2001 Miami Hurricanes, actually was the first head coach of UTSA. So that was pretty cool. And their very first game that they ever had was at the Dome, and they were in the FCS at that time. I think they went to the FBS like a year or two later. Um, and they had like 50, I think it was 56,000 fans at the game, which is like incredible attendance for your first game ever. And throughout the years, they've always had really good attendance at the Dome, which is exciting because that stadium does not get used a lot throughout the years now, since the Spurs haven't played there in about 20 years. So it's exciting that the Dome has like a good tenant now going forward.
Yeah. I saw too that their record in 13 years is 84 and 75, so they have a winning record. And in the time that they've been playing football, UTSA has more conference championships than the Texas Longhorns do. They have 2 Conference USA championships. And so, we'll get into what the line is and everything, but this is obviously a school coming with less resources, almost no football culture, and they've done a lot with what they had, which is commendable. So,
Yeah, they're
um,
like a startup. Like a
yeah,
startup competing
startup.
with a bunch of these
Yeah,
established
startup culture.
enterprises and really yeah, Jeff Traylor at the helm. Kevin, you are famously a huge fan of Coach
Hmm.
Traylor for sure. Can you tell us a little bit about him for sure as well?
Yeah, we started researching him a little bit 2 years ago when we were trying to learn interesting things to say about UTSA. And if you listen to one of the guys' like interviews, he just speaks like you would want a college football coach to talk like. And
Hmm.
he's really been able to build kind of an identity in the program, especially a couple years ago when he was playing with some pretty strong transfer talent. Um, I thought that he would get a real look at the A&M job last year, and I think that A&M made a mistake by not taking him more seriously. But he's someone that I wouldn't be surprised if he was on like the Texas staff next year in 2 years, or having an assistant coaching job at a school that, is a blue blood. He's a good coach. Um, as for the team though, let's talk about Saturday. Like what's the weather going to be like? What time's the game? What's that looking like, Andrew?
Yeah, uh, game starts at 6 p.m., which is exciting. First night game of the year. Sure, there will be a light show and all that fun stuff that was started last year at DKR. So that's exciting. High of 97 degrees that day. So don't know what the exact temperature will be around game time, but probably safe to say in the 90s. Um, but there will be a little breeze, 5 to 10 miles per hour. Doesn't look like it's going to rain, so that's good news. And yeah, so good conditions for the Horns. It's definitely different than last week in Michigan, where the starting temperatures were in the 50s. Um, but yeah, uh, for the next few weeks, it's going to be definitely warmer. But yeah, so far their season, they're 1-1. UTSA, they beat Kennesaw State, which I'm pretty confident is FCS school. Definitely not FBS. And Kennesaw State's 0-2 right now, so they're not a very good program. Texas State demolished UTSA 49-10. That was actually Texas State's first ever victory over UTSA. So that was a pretty big win for the Bobcats. And they have a huge game this upcoming weekend with Arizona State in San Marcos. So keep an eye on that. But Kev, you want to dive into their offense a little bit more?
Yeah, I think it's not great. They've struggled, and half of the games that they've played have gone really bad for them. So their stats might be a little um, like leaning in the bad direction. They look like they've had a really hard time running the ball. Their yards per carry is less than 3 yards, and they're averaging like 79 rushing yards a game. Um, I looked at who's catching passes for them, and about uh, let's see, what was it? About a third of the team's receptions are one guy. His name's Devin McEwen. He's a 6 foot receiver, so not, you know, um, not a body that is unlike what we've seen before. And they have a quarterback situation that it seems like early on they were playing two quarterbacks a lot, but they've settled on Owen McCown, who is the perennial NFL backup Josh McCown's son as their starting quarterback. He's got just over 60% completion and 3 touchdowns and no interceptions, but um, son of a guy that's got a lot of experience in the NFL playing, so might be a name we recognize. There might be some cool highlights from him. Um, the only other thing I'd say about their offense is they have two like Iowa State prime type tight ends, like 2 6'5" tight ends that look like they're really involved in the receiving game. So maybe something to look out for, but overall on offense, you know, not a huge concern. Like another opportunity for our depth to get on the field and, get a lot of rotation, a lot of bodies in there, and hopefully end the game with no injuries.
Yeah.
How about the defense?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, a lot of people remember the game from 2 years ago, and us as a crew, we were nervous about that game, just given the state of our program, given the state of UTSA. I think they went like 10-2 that season. I could be wrong on the record, but they did pretty well during that stretch, and that was when Frank Harris was leading the way, and they just had a lot of experience. And Jeff Traylor actually talked about that today in his press conference, how UTSA had a lot of experience and we didn't. It's kind of flip flopped since then, but their defense giving up over 32 points a game, not very good. Um, and like we said earlier, 49-10 last week. Gave up over 500 yards of offense to Texas State. Texas State has a great offense, so that's probably a good indicator just of how of what we can do this week. I think we're going to score a lot. I'd be really surprised if it's even a relatively close game, like within 14, 20 points. Um, I think we're going to be able to put up a lot of points, shut them down on offense. Something interesting though that I picked up on was they're averaging 10 penalties a game. So they're not being very disciplined, which is kind of opposite of a typical Jeff Trailer team, who's usually pretty disciplined. They're almost getting like 100 yards of penalties per game. So something to keep in mind, and especially for a lot of these players, this can be their first time playing in a stadium this big.
Yeah, I would end with our UTSA breakdown by almost saying like, what are the things to watch for? They're really not what UTSA is going to do or who they're going to play or names to know. I think it's the little things like, is Sarkisian playing Quinn in a way that gets him Heisman hype early on in the season? Or is Arch getting in early? Is the third string that you mentioned before we started, Andrew, Trey Owens, going to have an opportunity to play? Like, do we play for style points or kind of keep it vanilla like we did in week one? So that's
Mm.
one thing I'll be interested to see. Like, are we trying to get Quinn 7 touchdown passes, or is he going to be out when we're up by 20? That'll be what I'm watching.
Yeah, for sure. So hopefully Quinn's able to put on some good stats and continue this campaign. Hopefully that keeps going throughout the year. So yeah, anything else from that press conference that you took away, Kevin?
I'll allude to the same quote that you did when he was talking about kind of comparing where the programs were at the last time these two played 2 years ago. he ended that like so complimentary of what Sark has done in Texas. He's kind of talking like a guy that wants to coach under Sark maybe next year. He ended it by saying, and I'm paraphrasing here, Texas has great players all over their roster. These guys have backups that are really great. They're massive, they're extremely fast. It's the best team my coaching staff at UTSA has ever played against. Like
Saying
basically
something.
saying we're the dream team, which we love to hear that.
Yeah. It's dangerous though. One of our favorite coaches outside of Texas might refer to that as rat poison, except it's not from the media this time, it's from a fellow coach. So um maybe it's playing chess, not checkers, rat poison. So I'm glad the NIU film, the Notre Dame film, hopefully counteracts that a little bit as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, we'll see.
Yeah,
We'll see how it
definitely.
goes this Saturday. Are either of y'all going to the game? I'll be out of town. We're going to LA to celebrate Emily's birthday, but I couldn't remember if y'all were coming into town.
I was, but our Labor Day hunt got rescheduled and shuffled around, so I'll be almost at the Rio Grande, hopefully shooting some birds.
Nice.
There you go. Beep pew.
Hmm.
Nice. That'll be fun. Okay, awesome. Uh, yeah, we're gonna go back to our weekly new tradition this year of trivia. So, guys, I didn't tell y'all the theme before because if I did, I feel like y'all probably could have researched some facts about this person, but it's gonna be about Jeff Traylor. So,
Oh wow.
yeah,
Nice.
I'm gonna say some stuff. I think it won't be as hard as you might think, Bo. Um, but yeah, we'll give it a shot and we'll see how things go. But um, yeah,
What are the
first
what are the
question is gonna be
standings right
multiple.
now? I'm
Oh,
I'm up, right? Or is it tied?
oh yeah, yeah. Good reminder. Bowen is up. He got 3 points last week, so it's 3-2 Bowen.
Nice.
So let's see if Bo can keep his lead, or Kevin might make a comeback this week. Just a reminder: 1 point per question. If you win the week, it is worth another point. So the maximum amount of points you can win in a week is three, and you can just go from there. So first off, the first question I'm going to have is Jeff Traylor was a walk on in college, but what college was it? And this one's going to be multiple choice. So I'm going to give y'all some hints and we can just go from there. So A, Sam Houston State, B, Stephen F. Austin, C, Baylor, D, Texas Tech. We're going to start with Kevin this week to go first. Honor code again. Let me know when y'all have your answers and we can go from there.
I think I have it. Was D Texas Tech?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna go B Sam Houston.
No, Sam Houston was a.
Okay, I'm gonna go with A Sam Houston.
Okay, Sam Houston State.
I also
So
had
what
Sam
about
Houston
you?
State. I had Sam Houston State in my head too.
Kev, you were so close. You should have just stuck with B. It's
Ah,
Stephen F. Austin.
dang.
So
Dang.
you're close to it. So no points there. Yeah, second question. Jeff Traylor was the coach at the University of Texas. He was the assistant coach. Do y'all remember what coach he was at the University of Texas? Bowen, you go first this time. Kevin, you go next.
Ooh. Um, I'll say he coached the secondaries.
Okay.
I'm gonna say tight end, but I also think it might be wide receiver, but I'm gonna say tight end.
Kevin is correct. He was a tight ends coach and special teams. I
Let's
would have taken either
go.
answer. So Kev has a point there. We're gonna actually do a bonus question since y'all missed the first one. This will be real quick. He was the head coach at Gilmer for about 15 years. How many state titles did he win there?
Can I go first?
Kevin, you go first. Bowen second.
I'm gonna say four.
Okay. Bowen.
I also had four. So I feel like, hold on. I feel like I should pick a different number. Well, no, I shouldn't because I had the
No,
number in my
yeah,
head.
you
Yeah, I
can't
have
do
to
it
pick
now.
four.
Neither of y'all were correct. It was three. But Kev
Mm,
does win the week because he got the only question right. So he got
He
2 points.
does.
He's back up to 4. So
Oh, brutal, brutal.
4 for Kevin, 3 for Bowen.
man, I would have said 3 if I were you, Bone, just because I went high.
Yeah, but I had the number already in my head. Honor
Yeah.
system, you know.
He's an honorable
Honor
man,
system.
you know.
I appreciate that.
Okay, Bowen,
Uh,
take us into betting corner.
Thanks, Andy. And listeners, I hope y'all are keeping track of y'all's scores at home too. Man, it's a neck and neck trivia. Um, so Andy, thanks for leading us through that. All right, so with trivia down, that takes us into betting corner, our award-winning segment. Although our performance last week definitely will not win any awards. For the week, I had one bet and I lost it, so I had 4 units down. Kevin had an array of bets, also kind of aggregated out to minus 3.3.5 units. Andy also had a pretty big medley that netted to -1 unit. So we were down across the board last week. Overall, I'm down about a quarter unit. Kev's down 4 units, and Andy is down 6 units. So, fellas, we are not off to a good start. We're definitely going a little inverse Texas. Um, but yeah, I don't know. The season is young. So we still have definitely a lot of football left to be played and a lot of bets to be made for sure. So we'll see how we do this week. Um, Going into the Texas game, so Kevin and Andy previewed a little around how lopsided, I guess, this matchup is. Vegas also agrees. So Texas opened up as a 30-point favorite, so Vegas expect us to win by over 4 touchdowns. That has since climbed just based on lines will move up and down based on who bets it, and it's now moved all the way down or all the way up, excuse me, to minus 34.5. So almost 5 touchdowns they expect to UTSA to spot on us. So that's quite a significant amount of points. As far as the total, so the combined score of us and UTSA, it's at 53.5. So similar to last week, but I don't think that the score would be, quite the same as it was last week, just given the spread. So yeah, we'll start with this game, fellas. As always, listeners, we will take some action on this game, and then we'll move out. We'll move on to other games that are going on across college football or in other sports. So, Andy, why don't you start us off? What are you liking on this game?
You know, it was pretty disappointing last week. Bowen and I were talking about this in the stands. We were thinking for a while we weren't going to get the over. Michigan scores a late touchdown. We both thought, oh, they're going to go for 2. There's a chance. And I was happy Texas stopped the 2-point conversion, but not happy for my wallet. So I know Bowen wasn't either. So that was a little disappointing. We barely missed on the over on that one. But
Yeah, I
that's
also
how life goes sometimes.
I
I'm
also
gonna
heard from our producer Hamilton that Kevin may have like jinxed the Wolverines into scoring that touchdown. Kevin, can you give us a little
Yeah.
bit more on the backstory there?
Yeah, about a minute and a half before that touchdown was scored, I told everybody, do you realize like we have not allowed a touchdown all season yet? Like our defense is stout. And then there was like a chunk pass, and then before you knew it, they scored, and everybody in my house, right after telling me the brisket was good, was like, you know, you jinxed us, you suck, which I may have. So that's on me, but I didn't realize y'all were that close to the over. So that's, I guess, no, that's not a good thing. Anyways, I'll try not
Yeah.
to do that this week.
Yeah, it's all good. Sorry, Andy,
yeah.
for interrupting. We had to
No,
get that
all
get
good,
that
all good.
story in.
Yeah, that was a great tidbit. But yeah, I'm gonna continue my theme. Actually, the bets I did last week, even Oklahoma State somehow covered even in overtime. Was not expecting that for most of that game. All my bets that did well were the bets that were opposite of how I was feeling. I kind of had a mixed match. So I'm fully diving into the opposite theory this week. I feel great about the under. So that I guess that means the over is going to hit. gonna take 1 unit on the over for the Texas game.
Yeah. I have the same bet on the over here. I'm gonna put 3 units on that. I think we're gonna score a lot of points in this one.
Wow, fellas, we really like the total. Um, We're all on the same page here, so that probably does not bode well. Listeners, if you guys are fading us, that is probably a good strategy. Although mine's not quite exactly the same. I had a slightly different angle. I'm taking the first half over. I'm taking the first half over is 30 points. So I could definitely see us getting out to a hot start, like we did against Michigan, putting up three, maybe four scores, maybe UTSA getting one, us being, the total being at 30 at the half, and then hopefully putting in Arch and then Trey Owens in the second half and potentially slowing down a little bit. So yeah, the first half is a little bit juiced, or it's a little bit unfavorable compared to the total game, but
Yeah.
I like that first half over.
I actually like that. My eyes got huge when you said that because I thought you meant cover, that we would cover by 30 in the first half. And I was like, what? But no, it's a good bet.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, yeah, and then this is not on the Texas game, but I'm fully on the Kool-Aid. So I'm putting 3 units on Quinn Heisman. He's the
Wow.
front runner right now. He's only the odds are pretty abysmal for a future. It's only 6-1, but I gotta get in early. I can't, it's another Nvidia play. We got to get in early. We got to make sure that we got
There
our
you go.
investments out there. So
Yeah.
I
I'm
think
taking
we
that.
all have Quinn futures, right?
Yep.
I think y'all got in earlier than I did. Yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
I may have taken one week 0, but I forgot. But yeah,
I
now
think
I
mine's
got
only
in
like
early.
1 unit though.
Yeah.
It's good
Alrighty.
stuff.
Okay, cool. So that's the Texas game. Wow, we are hoping for a lot of points this Saturday. That's for sure. What about elsewhere around either college football or other sports? I mean, NFL just started. Kevin, we'll start with you first this time. Are you liking anything else?
I got one other. I'm sticking with my game plan for the season. Be boring. Bet Georgia, bet Kirby. They're on the road playing Kentucky this week, and Kentucky just lost at home by like 25 points to a decent SEC team. So I think Georgia's going to roll and cover by 24 there. So I'm putting 3 units on that.
There you go.
All right,
That's a good
Andy. What
bet.
about you?
Texas, I talked about this earlier. Texas State plays a huge game against Arizona State in San Marcos on Thursday. So if y'all are watching, tune in to ESPN. Um, I usually in situations like this, the power four school usually dominates, unfortunately, and doesn't do any favors to the group of five team that's hosting. However, like I said before, going with the opposite. So give me Texas State money line over Arizona State. I think it's like 1.5 spread for Arizona State. So it's not a huge money line, but give me that. Also, that will be for 2 units. And then lastly, Alabama is playing at Wisconsin. That screams under. However, going with the over, I think it's like 51, 51 and a half. I don't know how that'll hit, but somehow it will. Give me 2 units on that.
I love how your strategy is just like over the past 4 years, I haven't known how to do this. So I'm just like going to listen to my gut and then do the opposite.
I love it too. I love it too. I,
I
I
need it. I
really
need
like
to do
it.
something different.
So yeah, for listeners, it presents a difficult situation for listeners because if they fade Andy, Andy is already fading himself. So if listeners fade Andy, then they're really going with Andy. So that is a tough pickle to try to crack.
No, I know.
All right. For me, I'm not paying attention to anything really to the rest of college football, but I am paying attention to my beloved Texans, who are coming off a week 1 win against the Colts. Narrow victory, really well fought. We go to play the Bears in week 2. The total for that game is 45 and a half. I'm taking the over on that. I think we're going to put up a lot of points. Bears will probably put some more points together too. Caleb got the win, so kudos to him, but We'll see how many points they put up, but I think we'll put up a decent amount of points. So I'm putting 3 units on the game over for the Texans game.
Nice. There you go. Gotta get that
All right.
CJ money in.
Yep, exactly, exactly. All right, cool. That takes us into score predictions. Kevin, what are you thinking for the result on Saturday?
I got us winning 44-14. Scoring a lot of points, but with the matchup and some of the other big games this weekend, I think we won't get a whole lot of hype. It's not going to be an Oregon-esque beatdown, but we will almost cover.
Okay, I
There you
like
go.
it. Andy, what about you?
Give me 52-3. So I'll barely hit the over for the total.
Okay, nice. I have 48 to 10. 48 to 10. So I have the over there as well.
52 to
Yeah.
3 would be giving up one touchdown in 3 weeks. That would be nice.
I mean, you never know, but I just think I don't. I think UTSA is going to have a tough time moving the ball, and the only way I think they do is if we sleepwalk, which definitely is a possibility, but hopefully it's not the case.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully we see a lot of turnovers too. That turnover sword. I think they are they calling it Excalibur? I don't know if they said it on the broadcast.
The
Is there
sword,
is there a name for it? Yeah, the turnover sword with the
I don't
deflated
know, but I
footballs.
love that thing. I think that's
Yeah.
Yeah,
so cool.
Yeah, I feel like it's hard to be innovative with like these turnover celebrations, but I don't think I've seen that. I think that's
so
like
they
Yeah.
actually stole that from Arizona last year because Johnny Nansen, who came from
oh, okay.
Arizona, brought that tradition over.
I
So
see. Okay.
we
I want
ripped it
them
off and duplicated it.
I want them to like keep every turnover ball on that sword so that at the end of the season there's like 16 footballs on that sword.
Was it I think it was Anthony Hill that had the post-game press conference. I think he called it a turnover kebab, which I found
Yeah.
hilarious. That
That's
cracked me up.
awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of seeing that on the sidelines. All right, so we're almost done, listeners. Our second to last segment is mailbag. So as a reminder, folks, we will have mailbag questions posted on our Instagram story. We're going to start to do that on Saturdays after the game or Sundays if it's a night game on Saturday. And we also have the link in our Instagram bio. So if you have any questions, any feedback, comments, suggestions, definitely let us know. We had an awesome one last week from listener Shannon. So that was really, really, really great. And so we have a few questions now from other listeners this week to follow up on. So we'll start with listener Texas Mitchell. He asks, "What was the final attendance count of Longhorns in the Big House?" Yeah, great question. I mean, like Kevin alluded to on the broadcast, I'm sure it did look like there was quite a bit of burnt orange. They did a maze out in Michigan, so that they had all their fans wear yellow. So they attempted to try to blend the burnt orange in with the yellow. Uh, at the end of the game, though, when all was said and done, when we are singing our fight song at the end, it was a lot of burnt orange. Andy, what would you estimate was left in the stadium after the game?
Yeah, at the beginning of the game, I think we were all thinking like 10 to 15,000 because it was hard for us to see a good portion of the Texas fans. But after the game, I think had been in the low 20s. There was a lot of Texas fans there. So, and like Kevin said earlier, it was fun at the end of the game, just being able to sing our songs, and it got pretty loud in there, to be honest. So,
Yeah,
That's
yeah, I would
that's a
agree.
huge
I would
amount
agree.
because that's not close to Austin. Like, and
yeah.
I don't know how many Longhorns are in Detroit, but I wouldn't think that many. So that's a big number.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, all our flights on the way in, tons of Longhorns. At the MGM that we stopped at in Detroit, tons of Longhorns gambling, giving money to the Detroit tourism economy. But yeah, I would say 20 is probably pretty close to what it was. Kevin, did they show on the broadcast like the crowd at the end at all, or it was hard to tell?
They did show it like, wow, this is happening. Kind of Sark was moving around
Hmm.
doing a quick interview. It was really fast though, and it wasn't enough to get a count for sure.
Yeah, yeah, for
How
sure.
how did you guys fare on the tables? Gambling.
Uh,
Not great. Not
yeah, not
great.
great. There
Not
are some
great.
bad
But
vibes there, I'll say.
yeah, there were some I should have walked away. There were some people just playing not to the book and bouncing around multiple hands and walking away and just negative juju. But I stuck to my limits, so that was good. And in aggregate, Blake, our buddy Blake, was up on the weekend. So in
There you go.
aggregate, we weren't down that much,
Yeah.
which means we were even. So it wasn't. It could have been worse if we stayed at the MGM. Probably would have fared differently. But
Yeah.
you know, it is what it is. It was a fun experience for sure.
Blake put a
Um,
sizable bet on Texas to win the game. So that was good. And I hardly betted. So like
yeah,
Bo said, we were up for the weekend. So
Wow.
yeah.
Like roughly how many Chipotle bowls did you put on the game?
Well, okay, so he told us like, well, in today's
13.
economy, yeah, probably
Did
be
you
like
say,
in the
oh
teens.
my
But he I
goodness.
think he told us like in the single digits, and then after Texas won, he was like, "Okay, boys, now that Texas won, I can tell you that I went back to the sports book and put some more Chipotle bowls on the table. It was burning a hole in my pocket." So we were like, "Blake, you dog." So yeah, congrats to him for sure. We were stoked for him.
That's
Um,
awesome.
yeah, yeah, but okay. Yeah. So that was final. Yeah. Longhorns showed up. That's kind of the short answer to that. We definitely made our presence felt and yeah, it was a great showing there. Okay, so next question is from listener TJ Reiska. He asks, what happened to OU versus Houston? Um, yeah, I
That
think
was
alluding to a very, very close score. Kevin, did you catch the game? Me and Andy caught some of it when we got back home, but I don't know if you had it on at the house. We're following it pretty closely.
I didn't watch it very closely, but I looked at the box score after looking at this mailbag, and I actually DM'd Tyler back. I think he was alluding to my bet last week because I was like so confident that OU was going to cover, but they looked really bad. Um, they didn't move the ball. They were outgained on offense, and they lost the time of possession battle. So I didn't watch the game, but looking at the stats, it looks like they should have lost. So I got that one just totally wrong. But there's always next week. And thanks for the mailbag. Appreciate it.
For sure. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Last one that we have here is from listener Landon Smith. Landon says, we need a breakdown of L'Oreal being at the last two games and the effect on Sark's focus. Okay, so for listeners that are not as plugged in, I guess, for lack of a better word, to Texas Longhorn football, L'Oreal is our coach, Steve Sarkisian's wife. And before the season started, they both jointly announced that they were going to unfortunately file for a divorce. So we were pretty saddened by that, not only for the coach, especially and for L'Oreal, because you never want to see that, but also we kind of thought that our award-winning fashion corner segment was gonna unfortunately end as well. But lo and behold, these past 2 weeks, Sark's been looking nice and looking sharp on game day, and he hasn't been shy about who's been dressing him and who's on the sideline. So it sounds like things are improving, or they might be working it out. Andy, what do you make of the situation?
As a person who's pretty big um, against the idea of divorce, obviously there's situations that are unavoidable, but I love when people can work things out. So huge fan of this. You can see the results this season. We're 2-0. We're looking great. Long live the marriage of the Sarkeesians. So I'm
Yeah.
all for this. What about you, Kev?
She would be selling high, which is, we've made that mistake many times. Um, I also noticed like before the game on college game day, Sark was interviewed doing the thing where he's wearing AirPods walking around on the field, and they were just loving his cashmere burnt orange jacket, and he alluded to the fact that like he doesn't pick out his clothes, his wife does, and I was like, wait a second, aren't y'all separating? But hopefully he's taking a page out of the Rory McIlroy playbook, make it public, change your mind. Um, but I don't know what that means for his focus on game day, whatever he's doing. he should continue doing that though.
I agree. It's working. Yeah, we wish the Sarkeesians best of luck for sure. In figuring things out. I think winning certainly helps. I'm sure, but hopefully the marriage continues to um yeah, go smoothly. So, thanks for the questions, listeners. We appreciate it as always. And like I mentioned, links in our bio. You reply to our Instagram story as well, or just text or DM us individually. We're happy to take those questions on the pod. And that'll do it for us this week. We are still reeling from the Michigan win. I think the buzz will hopefully stay with us for quite a bit. I think this Saturday will be fun as well. So hopefully listeners that are going to the game, you'll let us know how it was. Hopefully the vibes are still great. And with that, we'll see you on the next Football on the 40.
Welcome.